So a concussion is a traumatic brain injury caused by a bump or blow to the body or the head that causes the brain to shake around within the skull. And it can cause damage then to the brain sort of at a functional level and a significant number of symptoms and impairments in how the brain functions from there. There's a number of symptoms that concussion causes, secondary to the inflammation, the damage, the temporary damage to the brain, hopefully temporary damage to the brain. And so this include things like headaches, light sensitivity, motion sensitivity, nausea, dizziness, difficulty driving, lots of pieces like that. But what's interesting is approximately up to 90% of people with concussions experience vision symptoms at some point in time in their recovery, either early on or having vision symptoms that persist and prolong past that normal recovery time of 2 to 4 weeks. Sometimes it can be blurry vision. Sometimes we can see a restriction or a change in how someone perceives their visual field. But more commonly, we see things like headaches, difficulty focusing, difficulty concentrating, difficulty with moving objects, either tracking them or being around moving objects, like sitting in a car or on a bus. And light sensitivity is also really common, particularly with fluorescent lights or indoor lighting. So at Waterloo here, we actually do two parts when it comes to how the vision system is impacted by concussion. We provide patient-facing care to help provide vision rehabilitation services for patients impacted by concussion. And then we also do research in trying to understand exactly how the vision system is impacted, what those impacts are, if any of those vision deficits that occur following injury are predictive of a prolonged recovery or impact recovery times, and then how we might be able to intervene and accelerate recovery or help people heal as well through a rehabilitation process. So when we talk about rehab and persisting concussion symptoms, we're talking about patients who've had symptoms for a month or more following their concussion. And if those patients have vision symptoms, where we'll start with is actually a full eye exam. So they'll come in and get a full eye exam, make sure the eye itself is healthy, because our eyes are really in our heads, and if there's trauma to the head, there could be trauma to the eye. So we want to make sure the eye itself is healthy. We then take a really careful look at someone's prescription and whether or not that needs to be adjusted or updated following their head injury. And then after fixing their prescription, getting all that settled, if we need to, we'll look at things like vision therapy, which is kind of like a strength and conditioning program for the eyes. We'll do targeted exercises from a clinical perspective to target deficits that patients may have in their vision system. In terms of research, we're looking closely at having patients again come in after injury, doing that full eye exam, measuring the prescription, and then measuring what those deficits are if they persist initially acutely after injury and then after time after injury as well to see how they change. We typically will see patients if they aren't recovering the normal time period. So normal recovery is typically 2 to 4 weeks, sometimes a little longer in kids. And if they aren't recovering in that time period, they're often classified then as having persisting concussion symptoms. And if some of those symptoms are possibly visual in nature, we'll see them here to do an assessment and help support the recovery, see if there's anything we can add to or help from a vision point of view to support their recovery at that time.